class.
Only it was mandatory by school.
What do you know? The panel full of artists is saying, "Oh, the solution is for everyone to do more art. That'll solve it." You know, we could use some more math too. Yeah, boy. So clearly there is, decades and decades of experience up here. I would love to hear from you all, and in any piece of acting, whether it's the art form or the business, because I'm sure there are people who are interested in getting into various kinds of acting, what is the most useful thing you've learned over the years that you've been working in this field? And also I want to encourage everyone, please don't wait for me to tell you can talk if you want to talk to each other or interrupt or anything like that, please.
Okay, I'll start. I think AI is going to save us. We need robots to tell human stories to people instead of humans. So I'm really excited about the innovations that ChatGPT is going to be my new. Stop his mic! Stop his mic! Wait, what? I think the thing that I've come back to more and more. Sometimes when I've been insecure about feeling, when I was younger, I thought I was super versatile. I could do any voice, and then now I'm like, oh, I just hear myself in everything I do. But the thing that I think has always been the most important, and what I try to do as a director and as an actor, is make it about ideas and choices, not the sound of your voice. We have a slogan at my studio, which is NYB Post. It is choices greater than simple voices. Choices are greater than voices. You can do a bunch of silly voices, but if you're not telling the story or having a perspective, and that's been a driving principle, not just in how we direct or casting actors who are real actors, not just sound really great, because there's a place for that too. Voiceover, sometimes audiobooks, that's more being a raconteur. But there's so many other things to do with a great voice. But if you're doing a character, then being able to sort of transcend yourself and be in their perspective and come from another place is the most important thing, which has also led us to all kinds of more I don't know what to call it, authentic casting, I guess. We never really had a diversity and inclusivity initiative. We just always thought the right thing to do was cast the right people for the job. When I was doing a lot of stuff for kids, they didn't have access to a lot of African-American actors. So there was one guy who was white that did all the black roles, and I was like, that's weird. It's New York. There's black people in New York. So we always tried to find more people. We did a silent voice, which is about a deaf girl, and Stephanie Shea, Sailor Moon's voice, who does our casting, was like, do you think we could get a deaf girl to dub this? And I was like, that's a challenge. Let's go for it. So we cast a deaf girl to be the deaf girl. The Japanese had a hearing person do a deaf accent. We did the first trans lead in an animated feature because the character's trans, and it was really hard to cast because the person I wanted was Maddie Blaustein, but she's no longer with us. She was Meowth in the Pokemon. Have you heard of it? And yeah, so I think more and more and more, I cannot argue against just why not be authentic in everything, and then choices are better than just sounding like a certain way. Don't sound angry, don't sound cute, have a reason for it.
Yeah, I want to underline that as someone who directs lots of actors and auditions a lot of actors. I am almost never casting someone on their first read. I am casting them based on the second thing after I've said, hey, can you give me this instead, or more of this, or less of this, and seeing not how good the thing is that they do, but how good they are at changing, shifting, building something collaboratively. And so those kinds of choices, rather than just how silly you can make your voice, are always going to be huge.
That is a huge reason why we cast Kylie McNeil in Belle, if anyone saw Belle. We had some amazing people audition, some influencers, everyone was a singer, everyone could do it, but I found with most people, I would show them the scene, give them direction, and they would do it the way they wanted to do it, and then I would throw them a curveball, and they just sort of did the same thing. My process is not to go in knowing how to direct a thing, but to discover as we go. And that's the kind of fun, exciting, scary thing about it. Trust falling into finding all the moments. And with Kylie, even in the callback on Zoom, thanks pandemics, I threw her a curveball. I was like, what if you're more afraid of this crazy stranger who looks like a beast? And she would change it up. And I felt like I could not just be the director and tell you what to do, because that's not how I direct, but this is someone I could discover the movie with and discover moments with. And that's why AI sucks. If one person's deciding what it should sound like, it's all going to be one voice. And I've been directed by people who give tons of line readings, which sometimes it can clarify. But if you're just going, I want to hear it this way, and making everyone do it the way you would do it, then there's no perspectives in the thing, and everyone's just talking to himself. The end.
Well, and I think to piggyback off of that too, like as an actor in the industry, not someone who directs and not someone who produces or casts things, it's really hard, and I don't think this is just for actors, I think this is just true. You are enough. And to walk into every situation trusting that that is true, whether or not you want to be an actor or, I don't know, if you want to run a convention, you're enough. And that actually gives you the ability to collaborate, to shift, to be directable, and to come up with ideas because it's no longer personal. You just brought yourself and that's it.
Yeah, like piggybacking off of that, I think one of the main things that I learned through my years in acting is like switching from what I thought the director wanted me to do in the audition room and switching to I have something to bring to this role that you haven't seen. So like what you said, you are enough. They are hopefully looking at what you bring to the conversation rather than what you think that they want you to bring. And ultimately, if you're trying to deliver something that you think they want, you're kind of like muting yourself. So I think that was a superpower that I like discovered, which is just like, I do have a voice, I have an identity. No one is like me, and I'll show you that in the audition room and on screen and in front of the mic. So yeah, we're enough.
That's nice. Yeah, I think what something I've learned is to participate in the conversation, to use that kind of language. I'm an introvert, will naturally choose to do things alone or not do things with people, depending on how you're looking at things. Like I play MMORPGs and choose to run solo and make the game very difficult on myself. And that shows up in my professional life by not networking really well. That was always something I was really bad at. And it's something that I've learned over the years of like, you have to get out there, take the classes, go to the events, participate in the cons, meet the people, reach out to them in professional, kind ways, be inquisitive, learn from those that have been there before, and show up, and those sort of things. This is one thing to have the dream, and it's really easy when you do that by yourself because you can have the dream and then the only person that's there telling you that you're going to succeed at the dream is you. And so you create this like little vacuum of like, I'm the most talented person on the planet. And then you go to an audition and you learn there's like 1,000 other super talented people as well, and only one of them are going to get the role. So meet more people, connect, take the workshops, and work on your craft. That's kind of my lesson. So.
I wanted to follow up on Hilary. Nice to meet you.
I learned that lesson, and Michael, bless you for figuring that out, because I felt like not enough for decades. But I learned a lot more directing celebrities when I started doing stuff with the G-Kids, film distributor. We had a lot of celebrity casting. We were really deliberate about how we cast it, because you can't audition celebrities, you have to offer them the job. And so I would do a lot of like sort of like sommelier tasting about like, what does their body of work represent? Like, what are their themes? Like, what do they do? Not just they're famous, throw them in this role, you know? I think that's been done pretty poorly on some very, very large scale things. And I told that to a meeting with a very large animation studio. This is being taped, so I'll keep it to myself. But wire. I was like, I'm definitely not here trying to get a job, just like speaking my mind. So what I learned from celebrities, which I initially was a little bit like, come on, man, let a voice actor voice act. Celebrity's celebrity, like we're not going after their underwear commercials, or what, you know, I'm not. But I did find that there was a lot less of them trying to like make me happy. They were like, I do this, you know, like why would I say that, you know? And I'm like, that's a good question. And we could, you know, direct well and find something really authentic, because they're not going to BS you know. So I learned a lot about that, like just bring who you are, you're enough. All that stuff is really, really huge. The other thing though is, how do you make yourself believe you are enough?
Oh, I mean, how do I? That's the constant battle, right? I think but it's such a good question. I don't, Michael, how do you, is there a way you do it? Is there a way you feel like you can beef yourself up?
Working out. No.
Nice.
It's hard. It's a hard journey. I remember having a conversation with an actor in Chicago, and she had just moved to Chicago, and she was like, auditioning and everything, and she came to me and she said, no one's hiring me, no one's casting me, no one's like representing me. And I said, who did you submit for? And she just named all the biggest theaters in the city. And I was like, girl, they don't know who you are yet. And I was like, okay, so here's the deal. Do a bad show. Just do a bad show. Put yourself there, do your work, because people will remember the best part of a bad show and they'll remember you. Like, just do your work. And ultimately that starts the conversation in, oh my gosh, I do have something to bring to maybe this bad show. And that's like the seed that's starting to plant, where I'm like, you're just putting yourself there, kind of piggybacking off of what you said. Putting yourself there and like doing it. That's not the best answer, but it's hard. Like, you have to do it over and over again until like until the page turns and you're like, oh, I guess I am the moment. You know?
And I think too that now I have an answer. Thank you. Being a whole human being, and when I say that, I mean acting isn't the only thing that I love. It's not the only thing that I do, and I think that like my recognizing that I am enough also means like I love tiny things and I make tiny doors and I put them out for the elementary school kids that live next to my house for holidays. My favorite ones are the Halloween ones because the kids love them and they knock on them and run. I have a 2-year-old. I love hanging out with my 2-year-old and like being 2 again and figuring out what that feels like. So partially being enough is recognizing all of the elements of myself that fill my cup that have nothing to do with having to constantly interview and tell people that I am enough for my job. So I think that's
I could say something, but maybe I shouldn't. This is my literal mic drop. Yeah, I think taking the compliment when they come, kind of what you were saying of like recognizing when someone says something or appreciates the work that you do. I would be able to think, oh, you know, that's not that impressive, or someone else was more impressive, or maybe someone else does it better. But realizing what I did in that moment spoke to that person, and take that and kind of view it as an experience point in that column, and recognizing that, yeah, you're leveling up slowly. Because after a while, you'll look back and be like, oh, I've done this many shows, or I've been on this many projects. Even if they weren't paid, like I'm doing the work, I'm doing the things, and eventually that builds up to something more. So yeah.
I think we're circling around a thing that like therapy is awesome. and this is a way of restating what Hilary was saying, but like acting is both a wonderful art form and a wonderful job, and we're all very, very lucky to be doing work that supports our lives. That is also an art form, and that's amazing. And also, I am a person. I have produced podcasts that millions of people have listened to, and I have produced a podcast that 10 maybe people have heard, and neither of those made me feel good about myself. Like, that's not, like, there's not a level of famous or success that will, like, solve anything. And so, like, I think there is something to say, like, this is a wonderful job, and it's a job. And it's a wonderful art form, and it's art. And like, it's a great thing to pursue and also take care of yourself. I guess I also want to say that it does get complicated because it is both an art form and a profession. And it's very easy to think to yourself, my art form doesn't matter because it's not my profession. And your art is not more meaningful because it is on CBS. It is like, if 10 people see it in a very small Ohio town, or if 10 million people see it on Paramount, those are both still amazing pieces of art and are worth doing.
Speak.
It's weird. Actually, I recently kind of unlocked a master achievement that I'd always wanted. when I started doing like anime directing and stuff, I was doing a lot of series work for a company called Media Blasters. They were cheap and they actually still owe me money.
That's the voice acting experience.
So much money, oh my gosh.
That you don't mind being recorded.
We haven't worked with them in, I don't know, 15 years,
Okay.
and they still owe me a house. Anyway, and not a small one. Anyway, so whatever, that's not what it's about. What I was gonna say was, during those times, I really wanted to do more feature work. I did a couple of things that were feature length, but I wanted to do like the big things that I would see when I went to AX and Bondi was talking about a new thing, or Ghost in the Shell in theaters. It was like, wow. So I wanted to do that. Then I got to do more of that. Then I was like, I mean, the dream would be like doing, Studio Ghibli film, like Hayao Miyazaki. Then, he did his last film ever, The Wind Rises, 10 years ago, and we were up against it for an Oscar. And I was like, I hope he wins. And then Frozen took it, whatever. But all due respect. But then, then I got to do kind of everything I wanted. A big feature, Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli. We won the Oscar, and it didn't complete me. Also, people aren't like knocking on the door being like, you did The Boy and the Heron, let's hire you. None of that really changed much. It's a nice thing, and when people congratulate me, I'm like, I didn't win it, Hayao Miyazaki won it, but I did dub, and we had Robert Pattinson, and Christian Bale, and all this stuff. It was really, really cool. It was a great thing to do, but it didn't complete me. It didn't make me feel more anything, and it is really about the work. But the fortunate thing is, I think, also speaking to your point, is that the work is fulfilling because it's a practice of being in the moment. It's not the only thing you can do to be in the moment. I started fencing when I was in high school. I heard it was good for actors. I thought because if you play Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet, you'll be, that guy. You'll be really good at stage combat.
Section on your resume.
Oh my God. But it's also the antithesis of real fencing. Stage combat is about telegraphing. I don't want to poke you in the eye. Real fencing is so tiny, I don't want to telegraph anything and go into the thing. And I was literally, I almost didn't go to college. I was on a track to go to the frickin' Olympics. And then I freaked out and was like, oh no, I got accepted to the conservatory, and if I don't go, they'll be mad at me. I would advise myself to go have the life experience. Because all that makes you a better actor, to her point. So, what I'm getting to is, there are so many ways to be mindful. Oh, the thing about fencing was, when it finally clicked for me, and it was like the Matrix unveiled itself, I was like, oh, I'm in the moment. I'm listening and responding to what they're doing so I can beat them. And I was beating people better than me. So, then I was like, oh, I can do the dishes and be in the moment. I can go on a walk on this beautiful riverfront and be in the moment. There's so many things to do to be in the moment. And the thing about acting is just sort of balancing on I prepared all these things, I have to say the words that were given to me, but I also have to be right here and listen to the person I'm talking to. Be externally focused, respond, not just act, but respond to things. So I feel like there's a lot of ways to do that. Sports is another great way to do it, You're in the moment. The intention is very clear. Ball, goal, elbow, don't high stick it, talkie, I don't know, sports ball, clearly my thing, but it makes acting a wonderful career choice because you get to do it for a living, try to be in the moment, and it's a constant struggle your whole life, but there's a million other things to do, and I got advice when I was at the conservatory from a guest artist who came in and said, don't be a starving artist, that doesn't make you good, that doesn't make you more hardcore, it just makes you empty. And he started doing a thing where he was working with special needs kids, and it made him feel like he was changing the world. And then when he went into audition, he was like, I hope I get this, but I'm not like, oh God, I need this job to validate me, something else validated. So yeah. But everyone else already said that. So.
And I do I want to take that as a segue at maybe the very pithy thing that I'm going to steal from a playwright friend of mine who says things much better than I ever could, is that she talks about there are times when her art should feed her, it should pay her rent, buy her groceries, and there are times when she should feed her art, and both of those are important. I would love to also hear from y'all about advice kind of within the business side, because this is a job. What is like the one piece of business advice or industry advice that you could pass on to people if you wanted to?
Well, I'll just repeat what I said earlier, which is network. It's very, very crucial to meet people and work on the crafts. In voice acting world, that starts with workshops. And there are a plethora of those available, both in person and now, thanks to COVID, one of the few things that are good that came out of COVID is you can take a lot of workshops online. I offer workshops where you can just Google it up and find all sorts of schools that are offering them online. And you'll find that like through the workshop circuit, if you're getting less and less notes from your instructor, that's how you can know to move forward through things. And then they'll start to turn you around and introduce you to casting directors and that sort of thing. So networking and through workshops is really powerful. That's kind of a nuts and bolts answer to that, yeah.
Yeah, and recognizing that networking, the stereotype of networking is like being the like life of the party, or like the person who everyone likes at that party, but it's literally what you just said, is just doing your work and like being there and trusting that your work is going to speak for itself. That's something that I had to learn early on. And then also, I used to be really bad at just saying nice things about what I do, or like kind of selling myself. So like just think of 2 or 3 things about yourself that you actually like love, and practice saying them out loud, and then you'll be very good at saying them to other people. And that's just a form of selling yourself. Just believe in yourself is what I'm trying to say.
Have some headlines.
I'm such an aunt. I'm
Such Midwesterners.
That's so important. I don't even know how to tell people what I do. They're like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, I mean, I do funny voices, but I also own a studio that's bi-coastal. I also direct, I produce. I'm a mixer, I engineer. I don't have to call that.
I love dogs.
I love dogs. So like, yeah, I also love photography, I play guitar. I got really nerdy about copy, but like, what I can't even really easily define what I do for a living. So I should practice. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
We should start crying.
I think my advice for people has always been, go, get in harm's way, do. A lot of people ask, like, how do I become a voice actor? And I'm like, well, like, do it. I mean, literally the job is reading out loud. I had a teacher in high school say, like, read 20, 30 minutes a day out loud, not to yourself, out loud, at a full voice, at a normal projection, play with different projection levels, but you can actually do that all the time if you want to be a voice actor, practice reading out loud. That is literally the job. But I feel like a lot of people like not sure what to do, then they seek comfort. It's uncomfortable to put yourself in a new situation, and that's where you grow, so put yourself in harm's way. Every voice actor I've been on a panel with, when we talk about their origin story, it's totally unique and not replicatable. Lisa Ortiz, who was in Slayers and now directs Pokemon, does all this stuff. She like got her car stolen and then borrowed her brother's car, which broke down, and had to call a guy who ended up being like, what did your sister do? Oh, she's an actor. Hey, we're doing this weird cartoon. She ended up in like, oh God, what was it called? It's a fantasy thing, a million years ago. Lotus War, record of Lotus War. Thank you, sir. Always have a plan, that's what they said. Ka-ching. So, you know, no one else can get their car stolen and then borrow their brothers to do that. I had gone to school and studied all this stuff, and like I went to the Fame School, went to a conservatory for classical theater. And then when it came to the theater, to my career, I was directing Berserk, because I was a director at that point, trying to build my studio. The woman that I cast as Casca loved voice acting, had never done it before. I found her doing a Moliere play. She started taking classes. Bing, bing, bing. And then, then she told me her teacher was friends with a producer who was casting new Ninja Turtles, and literally threatened to kick my ass, and she could have taken me if I didn't crash the audition. And I'm like, I don't crash auditions, I run auditions. I'll try to find a way. And I'm feeling a little under the weather. And she's like, I will kick your ass. And I was like, okay. So I literally crashed the audition, almost left before I got to do anything. And then I got cast by the guy who created Peter Laird to be Leonardo. But like, I was threatened to crash an audition. I don't recommend that. I went with no headshot, no demo tape. So that's not duplicatable. But if you put yourself in harm's way, like, somehow the world finds a way to conspire to help you if you're putting it out there. So get in harm's way. And I think right now, my global industry lament is that artists are less my clients these days. It's more tech bros. It's Netflix, it's Amazon, it's Apple. You know, Disney Plus is a little bit different because they actually have a department that manages and cares about how things are being dubbed. But you know, like I've been told by some big companies, we don't really care about dubs. It's just a spec on a foreign distribution thing. It's a secondary language thing. It's a widget. It's just a shoe. We don't think it's artistic. And I was like, no, but if you don't make it artistic, no one's gonna care to watch it. So whatever. But so while that's happening, a lot of these huge companies are hemorrhaging money, and my very pessimistic distributor friend, who's got a very tiny imprint, is saying he thinks it's a great time for people to do smaller, more authentic things. So if you want to create something, and this is me saying to myself, I've been grinding for decades doing other people's work and doing it at a high level, and it's great, but I have not really been saying my thing. I've been using my voice through other people's work, but like Hayao Miyazaki won an Oscar, and I did the whole English language version of that, which people keep trying to convince me was an integral part of the story to it being accepted, especially since the voting bloc of the Academy is, older and white, and maybe didn't want to read the movie, but like, and there was a lot of talk about the people who were in it, and it was great. Famous, wonderful people. Florence Pugh was amazing. Robert Pattinson never sounded like a crazy bird before, but I didn't make the movie, and I wish I did more making of my own thing. So I would say that, like, make your own thing. And audio dramas are incredible, not an oversaturated market, and you can invent the universe sonically.
I'm gonna blame Jeffrey this time. I'm gonna echo that because Eleanor, one of our producers, said this earlier today. Make the thing. However you wanna do that, make it. And I could be like, industry-wise, persistence is key, but that is something that privileged people get to say, who actually can be persistent in it, right? Who have support in that way. Not everybody has that kind of support. So however you make the thing, that is successful enough and that is good enough. And if you keep making the things however you make them, I really do trust that you will get to continue to do so, and that gets to be work.
Yeah, I just echoing, we talk a lot about, people, we tend to interact with a lot of people from, NPR and the kind of narrative nonfiction audio space, where they're always, I have this great pitch for a show, but I need one of the big institutions to allow me to make it. And it is, even if no one ever hears it, it's so worthwhile to just make the thing, because that is practice, that is training. And I was talking about it, like, I have shows that are very popular and I have shows that no one has heard, and I have got more work from the shows that no one has heard. Like, each of those 10 people got me other work, because I was free to make a show that I didn't care if other people liked it. I liked it, and that let people see, okay, this is what it's like going on inside your head. I want you to sound design this other thing for me. So yeah, make the things you like, and your audience will find you, and maybe people with money will find you and give you some of it. And that's what the industry is about.
The formula right there, you just cracked it.
We've got about 15 minutes, so let's switch over to questions, if anyone's got one. Hey, Eleanor, do you want to run a mic for me? We may have to meet in the middle.
What was that we were saying about do the thing? This is the thing you can do.
I made it worse.
Oh, no. You may have to come up.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, do I address you? Do I address that? I'll just stand like in a nice middle ground. Yeah, so what challenges did you face getting into the industries that you're in? And this is kind of a two-parter. Do you face the same challenges? Have they evolved, or do you face an entirely different set of challenges now that you're where you're at?
For me, different. Initially, I was like, who am I? I'm too young. Now I feel like I'm too old. It's never perfect. Grass is greener. And I didn't think, why would anyone hire me? And now it's so much more competition. There's so many more people getting into it because they're like, I can talk, I should do this thing. So now the challenge is competition.
Oh no, go ahead. Look this way. Oh god. I think my main challenge getting in was kind of similar, just like I'm too this, I'm too that. Mainly I'm too queer, and I'm too black, which, just like, what are you doing? Which has turned into really a validating thing. It's my selling point. It's what makes me me, and that's actually why most people hire me, which is great. I think currently, yes, competition. Currently, it is maybe the juggling of life with it right now. it's so funny because Hilary and I actually met doing social justice education for colleges in the military. So we taught like Army people and Navy people and colleges. And that's what, like, my acting kind of like fueled that and made me very good at talking in front of people. But now it's really hard to juggle that, which is a beautiful cause, with like where I get my electricity from, which is like performing. So juggling life with it is probably my current one.
I think when I first started, the challenge was everything was too far away. I happened to fall in with the only video game recording studio in the South Bay. I grew up in the Bay Area, Northern California. And so that was my entry point, but all the agents were in San Francisco, which to go there on the regular was just not feasible. And now I think, similar to what you're saying, the opposite is true. Everybody has a mic and can record at home, so everybody has access to the same thing, so there's a lot more competition. So I think it's swung.
I think I've been doing this for a long time because my dad was in the industry. And so that's initially how I got in as a kid doing this kind of thing. And so I think one of my challenges was that I thought I knew everything. And I thought I understood how to do it. And I thought I could walk into an audition and that like it didn't matter if I booked it or not, which is true. That part is true. But I thought it didn't matter for different reasons. And then, and it's funny looking back at that, because now I think the new challenge for me walking in the industry is like knowing that I don't know anything, but feeling like I should. But actually, I think that's a strength. I think trusting curiosity is always gonna win over, and so the challenge is remembering that. And then kind of like what Michael was saying too, of juggling life has gotten a lot harder than it used to be. It used to be easy to be like, hey, could you come, well now they don't, the union won't let them do this to me, thank God. But they used to be like, you have an audition tomorrow and you have 6 pages and you need to be memorized and you're walking into the casting office at this time. They're not allowed to do that anymore, as of very recently. But it has changed how I get to look at my life sometimes. I don't have to be worried I'm gonna get an email and have to do the thing. And that is very freeing. I feel like I've gone totally off course. But essentially juggling that, like, I have a kid, I can't just drop my life and go and do a show at Milwaukee Rep. I now have a child that I am the main caretaker for. And juggling how I do that. But again, my challenge is accepting those things as gifts and taking that with curiosity instead of being like, I had a kid, I ruined my career, you know?
What every child wants.
Yes. They all need to go to therapy for some reason, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that kind of in the wild world of audio fiction, I mean, I started making audio fiction in 2009, so before there were podcasts. And so the challenges there were, how do you convince an audience to check your web page 3 times a week and to see if you've updated a thing? And now from my place where I am primarily a creator and primarily hiring actors, the level of competition I don't think is a problem, because we are still not so saturated in the audio fiction world that like we are competing for like, you know, primetime slots or anything like that. Audio fiction listeners just always want more shows like the ones they like. I think there is still a huge discovery problem in terms of just like letting people know your show is out there. And the bad news is that the ways to solve that problem change at least every 5 years, because it was 5 years ago when we last launched the show, and it was totally different then. And maybe it's actually every 6 months the way you launch a new show has to change, because, you know, Twitter is dead now, and yeah, like getting the kind of nuts and bolts marketing thing of getting the word out on your show is tough. And we still haven't solved that. More questions?
is something from a role that you just kind of like, it resonated with you and you've taken with you today? Like something that you've learned from maybe a character or a situation?
So when I crashed the audition for Ninja Turtles and then magically booked it, I didn't know how to play it. The description for Leonardo I thought was very generic. It said, everything you want in a hero and more. And I'm like, I want flying. Turtle can't fly, so that's lame. Laser vision, I don't know, like anything. Time travel, maybe? I like Doctor Who. So I talked to Sean Schemmel, voice of Goku, and he was like, dude, of course, you're totally Leonardo. He's like, dude, listen, hear me out. I was born near the monkey. I'm the Monkey King. You're a Leo. You get to play Leonardo. I'm like, pretty sure the Zodiac had nothing to do with Peter Layer's choice. He goes, hear me out. I was like, I get, okay, what else? He goes, the way you run your company is the way Leonardo is the leader. He's not the leader because he has an ego, he wants to be in charge. That's Raphael. Raphael wants to be in charge to go bust heads, but if he was the leader, everyone would die. If Mike was the leader, everyone would play video games. If Donnie was, he'd tinker and do nothing and no one would get saved. But Leo is the one who's responsible and takes care of his family. And the way you run NYV Post is you take all the brunt of the bull S from the clients so we don't have to. You work late nights and weekends so we don't have to. You protect us so we can be creative. And that's how Leo leads the family. And I was like, what? And that gave me like an entree to doing it. And then I got to go in for like 6 years, once a week, have brothers, which I didn't grow up with, which was lovely, and take care of them. And that's how I took care of myself. I wasn't trying to get something. It was kind of the way I already was, but it was sort of a weird external way of approaching the way I do things and validating it because, hey, turns out the way I was enough. Wait a minute.
Where's the mic? Hit the drop it. I think so. I play Sly Cooper, who is a master thief and is super cool. So I pull a lot of heists on the side. So one of the best stories, which I think is the inverse of your question, was we were recording the second game and they decided they wanted to film a behind-the-scenes movie of actors recording this game, which is always super exciting to watch people talk into a microphone. And so they had the three members of the cast in the room, and the camera guy and the producer are walking around and they're adjusting mics and they're getting ready to film this. And one of the guys turns to someone else and goes, oh, everybody kind of looks like their character. And we do. Murray is kind of a big, stocky guy, played by Chris Murphy. Matt Olson has these thick glasses. He looks just like Bentley. And so I thought, oh, that's because I look super cool, right? And I said that out loud and was met with silence. Where the two guys actually looked at each other like, yeah, okay. So, not as cool as I thought. So, to this day, humility is the trait. And I have learned from Sly Cooper. So.
I love you. That's a great question. I think one thing I learned, it was from a play called Malima's Tale that I won an award for in Chicago.
Incredible.
Humble brag. And I played like 5 different characters in this show, all from different parts of Africa. And one of the characters was an elephant poacher. And then the next scene, I played a person who was like protecting wildlife. And then the next scene, I was playing a guy who was selling the elephant tusks. So all different accents, so fun to play, but also like so like full characters. And I think what this play made me learn was empathy and how to embrace the people around me fully. I used to say I like absorbed characters or I absorbed people when I like met them, but I just kind of like will talk to people and embrace them with like just my aura or energy, because I realize that everyone I meet has something to offer my life and everybody around them's life. Oh my God, I sound like an aunt. So sorry. but fully, it's just like recognizing the full people around me. That's really what these roles taught me. Even though some of them were like putrid human beings, I had to fully like feel them like as full people. And it made me feel more people around the world as full people, and it's just I like people, is what I learned.
I'm just kind of surprised that you needed to be told that. You seem like the kind of person who likes people in general.
Can you say that in the mic?
I have been in my life and combat it pretty regularly. This person that like takes things a little too seriously, and I'm always like, oh, we really need to like think about this. Let's intellectualize it. And that is, it has not served me very well. And I feel like I've gotten to actually play so many characters that remind me that levity is something you can take with you, and you're not in a tragedy until you're in a tragedy. And so I got to play Benvolio in Romeo and Juliet. I think that whole play is actually a lesson, and it's not a tragedy until it is, because that play is a comedy until it's not. And then playing Jamie is actually really similar to that in our podcast World Gone Wrong. I think it's a constant reminder playing her of, because she actually has that same habit that I have, that she can kind of be like, no, we have to think about this, we have to plan it. And then I get to be reminded with her constantly that like we can be light, and we can, I don't know, laugh even when things seem like they might be hard, because we shouldn't borrow trouble from the future. I stole that line, by the way. I should say that.
I think we have time for one more question. Which means it doesn't need to be a good one, it just needs to be a question.
What time?
Well, that's it,
Okay, for something a little bit more lighthearted, what's like a criticism, a direction, something like that you've gotten that's just stuck with you that was like maybe really weird or what, or something like that?
everything Jeffrey's ever said.
Yeah, this one time they told me I wasn't cool.
I think the best piece of direction I've ever given, the one I'm most proud of, and the actor still tells me about occasionally, is this guy was reading for an elderly character who was secretly the villain of the show, and he was, it was really soft and gentle, and I was like, okay, I want you to give me that performance again, except you are 2/3 of the way through transforming into a werewolf. And this was Mark Solo, yeah. It was to date the scariest thing I've ever experienced, and I gassed him.
It made me think of direction I've given. I don't know. Okay, speed round. One, I gave the direction once because you said that. Don't play the words, let the words play you. And that's something the actor keeps coming back to me with. He's like, bro. I'm like, okay, good for you. I think the weirdest direction I got was I think it was Taliesin Jaffe, actually, the Critical Role guy. He directed me and said, you're not a human, you're like, I think it was like a dragon or something, dragging as a human. So I was like, oh. So I wasn't even a person being extreme. I was not a human. That was a good direction. But I was in a session doing ESL. It was like teaching English as a second language, right? We were fun sessions. Group record, 1,000-page script, go to page 700, and you're man A, man B, woman A, woman B, and then you just go. So you couldn't prepare anything, just like read it and know what level it is, so you're contracting or not contracting, isn'ts and is nots. But the director was really picking on this one girl. I don't know why. She was the younger one, and we would all get like a note here and there, but every take she would go, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know, just try it again. It was cruel, and I thought it was mean. We're all like, hey, you're doing great. But at some point she was like, I don't know what to do. I'm not being given anything playable. But in that moment, I got one tiny note, and it just occurred to me to say thank you instead of like, okay, whatever, or sorry, or so. I really think with direction, no matter how weird or uncomfortable or anything, even if it's good direction, people sometimes have a tendency to be like, oh, I did it wrong, you had to direct me, so I'm not enough. But I have a strict no apology zone in my booth. You cannot apologize. And when people apologize, they're like, oh, sorry, I apologize. They're like, okay, you can apologize for apologizing. That is it. And that's the last one you get. And it becomes a game and it's funny because I don't think there's any mistakes, you're just trying to think. So even if you get directed anything good or bad, I think saying thank you automatically changes it to something positive. And the most famous and successful people that I've worked with, they never apologize.
Being with the director, it's a collaboration, not a correction. I think that's like.
Well, I can also use this one. You don't have to walk all the way over here. So I was in an audition at the Goodman, which is this big theater in Chicago where everybody wants to work, and I have sort of come to understand that maybe that's just not my home, but that's okay. And I was in a callback, and so I felt really excited that I was there for this callback for this role. And I did the whole scene, and I did the whole moment where this person breaks down, and then you know in the next scene that this like really terrible thing's gonna happen. And I finished, and I looked at the panel of all the people, and they went, thanks. I got no notes, which is actually, I think, far worse. So I had to put my head down and walk out of that room and fully know I did not get that role. Yeah.
I also was in an audition recently, and it was for a comedy, and I did my sides, and they laughed, and it was great. And then the director said, okay, this time, do it as if you're on an episode of Grey's Anatomy, but it's the saddest episode you've seen. And I was like, okay. Immediately, full melodrama. I tried so hard not to be funny. It's really hard for me to do. And they did not laugh, and they were like, great, I just wanted to see if you'd do it. And I was like, okay, great. But it's going back to what you said, which is like, can they switch on a dime?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what you're trying to see me do. And that just, yeah, it was really great, and it's a cool acting exercise.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you have one to take us home?
I can't pull out a specific example, but I remember learning through doing improvisational comedy and then screenwriting to embrace the knife and not take these sort of notes personally, and just sort of recognize that you're working on a craft. So when you put together that script or whatever you're working on, and someone comes back and says this isn't working, it's too long, or it's not funny, you just recognize that more voices make it better, and to take the note and embrace the knife. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and thanks all of y'all. That was great.
Yeah, thank you.